All right, so today we are going to deep dive into something pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jamna Auto Industries Ltd's Q2 FY25 results.
Okay.
And we actually have a lot to work with today.
I like that. I like having lots of material to go through.
Yeah, we've got the company announcement, their detailed financial reports.
Standalone and consolidated.
Yeah, standalone and consolidated, and they even put out an investor presentation.
Wow. A lot to unpack there.
Yeah, so hopefully we can break this all down and, see what kind of nuggets we can pull out of it all.
It's like having a bunch of puzzle pieces
Yeah.
from different boxes.
Yeah.
You got to figure out which ones go together and which ones don't.
Right, and just for anybody who maybe isn't super familiar,
Right.
Jamna Auto, they're a leading manufacturer of suspension systems
Suspension systems.
for commercial vehicles in India.
Okay.
So think, big trucks, buses, trailers, that's their bread and butter.
Gotcha.
And then they also have a little bit going on with agricultural implements.
And they've been around since 1957.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
And a pretty long history, right, in the automotive world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've also got a pretty strong CRISIL rating of A1 plus AA minus,
Solid.
which is always a good sign.
Yeah, always a good sign.
So, okay, let's talk about numbers. Revenue took a little bit of a hit this quarter.
Ooh,
Yeah, down 16% year on year
okay.
and down 8% from the previous quarter.
So down from last year, down from last quarter.
Right.
Not great.
Yeah, not great.
Not what you want to see.
And profits followed a similar trend.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, not exactly, what we like to see.
Right, but that's just the surface, right?
Right.
We got to look at the why
Yeah.
behind these numbers.
Yeah.
And that's where understanding, the industry context is really important.
Absolutely. And, the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, or SIAM,
Okay.
they released data showing production declines in both light commercial vehicles.
As well as the medium and heavy commercial vehicles.
Gotcha.
So, it's kind of only natural, right, that since they supply parts to these
Yeah.
manufacturers.
Right. Their revenue would be affected if
Yeah.
production's down.
Right.
Demand is down.
Right.
And that slowdown is likely, stemming from a few different factors.
Right.
I mean, you've got some economic headwinds,
Yeah.
still, persistent supply chain issues.
Yeah.
And you could even have a changing consumer demand.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean by that?
I'm thinking like the rise of electric vehicles,
Interesting.
which actually, according to their investor presentation,
Yeah.
is a space that Jamna Auto is starting to explore.
That is interesting, especially considering those Lakshya targets they've got.
Oh, yeah, the Lakshya targets.
Where they're aiming to get 50% of their revenue each from new products
Okay.
and new markets by FY 2026-27.
So in just a few years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which seems pretty ambitious.
Ambitious is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Especially considering
Especially in the face of, a changing industry.
a changing landscape.
Yeah. Landscape.
Bold targets, definitely bold.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that they're thinking long term, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But, the question is, how realistic are these goals?
Okay, so you're saying, we shouldn't just take those targets at face value,
Exact.
but look at their track record.
Yep.
Market trends,
For sure.
obstacle.
Yeah, all of that.
Okay.
It's all about, ambitious goals are great,
Yeah.
but they have to be grounded in a solid plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they need to be, a realistic assessment of the market.
Yeah. A realistic assessment of the market.
And that's where things, get really interesting for investors who really want to understand
Absolutely.
the risks and rewards.
Yeah.
The potential risks and rewards.
Right. Now, there are a few other details from the financials that I found pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Their revenue mix,
Okay.
it's almost evenly split between new products and new markets,
Interesting.
which seems to align with those Lakshya goals.
Right.
But they've also made significant investments in property, plant, and equipment this half year
That's interesting.
during a revenue dip.
Right.
Isn't that a little risky?
That's a good question.
Yeah, how does that align with their cash flow strategy?
Well, it could be risky, yeah.
Yeah.
But remember, they have strong cash accruals,
Right.
which means they're generating cash from their operations,
Okay.
even though profits are down.
Okay.
So it gives them some flexibility, right,
Right.
to invest in these growth opportunities.
Yeah. So like expanding their production.
Expanding production, developing new product lines, things like that.
Like those geared toward EVs.
Right, exactly.
So they're kind of betting on the future.
Yeah.
Even while navigating,
The present.
the present, the challenges.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And then I also noticed increased trade receivables
Okay.
and decreased inventories.
Interesting.
What can we get from those figures?
Well, those are really, subtle but important details.
Okay.
That higher receivables figure.
Yeah.
Could mean that they're offering, more lenient credit terms
Interesting.
to attract customers.
Oh, in a slowing market?
Exactly.
Okay.
It could be a way to, maintain sales volume,
Right.
but it does come with some risk
Yeah.
because, what if those payments are delayed?
Right.
Or even worse, what if they become bad debts?
Right. Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, the decreased inventories,
Yeah.
that might suggest that they're managing their inventory efficiently,
Okay.
which can actually be a good thing
Right.
because it can help their profitability.
Right.
Less storage costs,
Yeah.
less risk of obsolescence,
Right.
things like that.
So it's kind of a balancing act.
Exactly.
They're trying to stimulate demand, but also
Keep things lean,
keep things lean.
keep things efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a theme we see across a lot of industries right now.
Mm-hmm. Especially, the ones that are facing disruption,
Yeah.
uncertainty.
Right.
It's all about finding that, sweet spot
Yeah.
between managing what's going on right now
Right.
and then also positioning yourself for growth down the road.
Right.
Long-term growth.
Right. Okay, so we've covered the financials,
Yep.
the industry context.
Mm-hmm.
We've even hinted at these EV ambitions.
EV ambitions, yeah.
But there are a few more things I want to kind of unpack.
Oh, yeah.
Like their new board member
Interesting.
and that dividend announcement.
Okay.
Should we go into those next?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's see how those puzzle pieces fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, speaking of navigating challenges,
Right.
they've appointed Lieutenant General Ravin Khosla
Oh, yeah.
as an independent director,
Okay.
and he's a retired deputy chief of Army staff.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, it definitely suggests, a strong focus on strategy and leadership. Right, but couldn't you see that as a sign that they're kind of like anticipating a tough road ahead?
Yeah, it could be.
And need somebody with that kind of experience
Right.
to kind of steer them through.
Yeah. I mean, his experience in navigating, complex situations
Yeah.
could be extremely valuable as they face all these, industry headwinds.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Also, it kind of suggests that
Yeah.
there might be, prioritizing a more disciplined
Oh, yeah.
and strategic approach to
Right.
decision making,
Right.
which is never a
Right.
bad thing,
No.
especially in times like these.
Okay, and then there's the interim dividend announcement.
Oh, yeah. The bit of
Dividend
this.
of 1 rupee per share.
Okay.
Isn't that a little unusual
Hmm?
considering, their performance this quarter?
Yeah. It could be seen as a little odd.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, couldn't it be interpreted as like an attempt to appease investors
Yeah.
despite the results or
Yeah. I mean, sometimes companies do that. They issue dividends,
Yeah.
even when things aren't going great,
Yeah.
to, signal confidence
Oh.
to investors,
Right.
demonstrate commitment
Yep.
to shareholder value,
Yep.
even during a downturn.
Right. So we shouldn't just assume it's a positive sign
Look at that.
without kind of looking at everything else.
The bigger picture.
Right. The bigger picture. Okay, now let's kind of shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
Talk about their social responsibility initiatives.
Okay. There's CSR.
Yeah. So the investor presentation, highlights their focus on healthcare,
Uh-huh.
education,
Okay.
environment,
Yep.
sports.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah. And it's not just, like checking boxes.
Right.
They give specific examples
Okay.
of, their initiatives,
Quite deep.
which really adds credibility to their claims.
Absolutely.
Like supporting needy pregnant women in Chennai,
Wow.
sponsoring a shotgun shooter,
That's interesting.
planting trees.
Very cool.
It shows, a real commitment. Yeah.
To their community.
A broader vision
Yeah. A broader vision beyond just profits.
than just the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Kind of, reminds me of when I was volunteering
Wait.
at a local school here in host speaker city.
Nice.
It wasn't anything, huge.
Yeah.
But it was just, seeing the impact firsthand
Yeah.
really made me realize that,
Yeah.
even small efforts can
Make a difference.
make a difference.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's good to see, companies like Jamna Auto
Taking it serious.
taking it seriously.
Yeah.
But speaking of, sustainability,
Right.
we can't really ignore, the elephant in the room,
What's that?
the shift to EVs.
The EVs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Big change coming.
And the investor presentation does mention that they're kind of dipping their toes
Right.
into this space.
Okay.
But how do those efforts kind of stack up against, their core business in terms of investment potential?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So this industry shift towards EVs,
Yeah.
it presents both challenges and opportunities for a company like Jamna Auto.
Right.
I mean, their existing expertise
Yeah.
in suspension systems,
Right.
it definitely, carries over to EVs.
Right.
But they're going to have to adapt
Okay.
their products
Right.
to meet the specific requirements
Of EVs.
of electric vehicles.
Right. And they're going to be facing competition.
Oh, yeah.
Not just from, the traditional automotive suppliers,
Right.
but also these new players
Absolutely.
emerging in the EV space.
It's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
This transition to EVs, I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to accelerate
Yeah.
in the coming years.
Yeah.
And Jamna Auto's going to have to
Yeah.
be smart, be agile,
Yeah.
strategic
Yeah.
in their approach if they want to carve out their space.
And it's interesting that the investor presentation highlights,
Oh, yeah.
Emerging markets
Okay.
as a focus,
interesting.
which could be a really smart move.
Yeah, why is that? Because, EV adoption
Yeah.
is expected to be faster in those regions.
Oh, I
so
see.
like Southeast Asia, Africa, places like that.
Smart move.
Yeah, so it seems like they're placing bets on multiple fronts.
Multiple fronts,
New
yeah.
products, new markets, new
Yeah.
technologies.
Right.
But how does that align with,
Yeah, good question.
their financial capabilities?
Especially with that revenue dip.
Especially considering that revenue dip this quarter.
Right. Well, remember those strong cash accruals we talked about.
Okay.
Give them a little bit of wiggle room.
Okay.
It's like having a safety net while
Right.
you're walking a tightrope,
Right. Yeah, but even with a safety net,
Right.
those investments have to generate returns, right?
Yeah, they do.
So what are some of the potential, risks and rewards associated with, this EV strategy?
Well, one risk is they spread themselves too thin.
Yeah.
Investing in all these different areas
Yeah.
without a clear focus.
Right.
But on the other hand, the reward could be huge.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can successfully position themselves
Yeah.
as a key player in the EV ecosystem,
Right. Especially in those
especially in those emerging markets,
Yeah.
it's all about finding that balance
Yeah.
between ambition
Right.
and, being realistic about
Yeah.
what they can do
Right.
and what the market's doing.
Right. Okay. So there's a lot riding on their ability to execute these plans
Execute
effectively. But before we get too carried away with, the future,
Yeah,
let's circle back
right.
to the core business.
The core business. Okay.
How do their current, challenges
I'm not-
and strategic decisions impact their overall, outlook?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to look ahead, but you can't ignore what's happening right now.
Right now. Yeah.
Their ability to navigate this industry, slow down,
Yeah.
manage their finances prudently,
Right.
and adapt to this changing market.
Yeah.
I mean, that's key to their success
Yeah.
long term.
So it's this delicate balancing act
It is.
between, managing the present
Yeah.
and preparing for the future.
The future, exactly.
But I'm curious, like if you were an investor,
Okay.
what are some of the specific things you would be watching closely?
Well, if I were an investor, I'd definitely be watching their cash flow.
Okay, cash flow.
See if they can maintain that, even improve it,
Yeah.
despite, the revenue dip.
Right.
I'd also be looking at how well they manage those trade receivables.
Okay.
Because remember, those could turn into bad debts
Right. Yeah.
if they're not careful.
Right.
And then, of course, I'd be really interested in seeing their progress
Okay.
on those EV-specific products,
Okay.
particularly those emerging markets.
Hmm.
Those are the things I'd be watching.
So it's not just about, the top line revenue
Yeah.
or the profit margins.
Right.
It's about, understanding the underlying dynamics
Correct.
and how effectively they're managing, the challenges
Yeah.
and capitalizing on the opportunities.
That's where,
Yeah.
having that deep understanding
Right.
really pays off.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier
Yeah.
that the investor presentation provides,
Uh-huh.
a wealth of information
Oh, yeah. Tons of good stuff in there.
and insights.
For sure.
Are there any specific sections you think our listeners should pay,
Oh, yeah,
pay
absolutely.
attention to?
So the section
Mhm.
on their global commercial vehicle market analysis,
Okay.
really insightful stuff.
Okay.
They highlight, the growth potential
Okay.
in places like, Southeast Asia, Africa,
Right.
where, demand for commercial vehicles
Yeah.
is expected to surge
Okay.
in the coming years.
Right. So that aligns.
And that totally
Well,
aligns
they're Laksha targets.
with their launch targets. Exactly.
It's like they've got a roadmap laid out.
Yeah.
And they're taking,
concrete steps.
concrete steps to achieve it.
I like that.
But what about the potential risks in those markets?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
I mean, we hear stories all the time about, companies
Right.
struggling to adapt to, different regulatory environments,
Totally.
facing unexpected competition.
For sure. That's a valid concern.
Yeah, expanding into new markets.
Always comes with risks.
Always comes with risks.
I mean, they're going to have to, really assess the situation.
Yeah.
Political stability, economic stability.
Right.
Navigate those local regulations.
Yeah.
Understand the competition.
Understand the competition, yeah.
So, it's not just about seeing the opportunity.
Right.
It's about having a solid plan
Right.
to capitalize on it.
And to mitigate the risks.
And mitigate those risks, yeah.
And that's where, their experience
Right.
in the Indian market, their strong financial foundation,
Yeah.
their strategic partnerships
All of that.
could really play a crucial role.
It could, absolutely.
Okay, so it's a complex equation with multiple variables.
Multiple variables, for sure.
And their success really depends on
Yeah.
how effectively they navigate, all those complexities.
Exactly.
Now, before we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to touch on one more thing.
Yeah.
The human element.
Oh, the human element.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about
The number.
numbers, strategies,
Okay.
but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's people
Right.
that drive these companies forward.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on,
Yeah.
Jamna Auto's leadership
Okay.
and their ability to execute these plans?
Well, that's an important aspect
Yeah.
that often gets overlooked.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, we can analyze all the numbers, we can look at all the trends,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it's the people
Yeah.
who determine whether a company succeeds or fails.
Right. So it's not just about having, a good plan.
Right.
It's about having the right people
In the right places.
to execute it.
To get it done.
We've seen companies with great ideas.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Fail because they didn't have the leadership.
Or the talent.
Or the talent, yeah.
To make it happen.
To make it happen, so.
Yeah, so looking at the management team,
Yeah.
looking at their track record, their vision,
Yeah.
that can give you some really valuable insights.
Right. So it's about going beyond the numbers.
Which makes sense.
And understanding, the people behind the company.
The people, yeah.
Yeah, which can often, reveal hidden strengths, potential red flags. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
I like that analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Each layer reveals something new.
Uh-huh.
And it's only by examining all of them that we can really understand,
The whole picture.
the whole picture.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
Oh, I agree.
From, their financial performance to their EV strategy
Yep.
to their social responsibility initiatives.
Lots of different angles.
Yeah. But as we wrap up this, deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay, I like that.
Okay. So, given everything we've talked about, the industry challenges and their growth plans, their forays into new markets,
New markets, yeah.
new technologies,
New technologies.
what role do you think Jamna Auto will ultimately play in shaping, the future of mobility in India and beyond?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still pretty early,
Right.
but
Yeah.
they're definitely at a crossroads. I mean, they could become, a real force
Right.
in this evolving landscape
Yeah.
if they leverage their strengths,
Right.
adapt to, the new realities.
New realities. Yeah.
But they could also struggle
Right.
to keep up
Yeah.
with all the changes.
Yeah.
And, their market share could erode.
So it's kind of a
Yeah.
choose your own adventure.
The choose your own adventure. That's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, their decisions today will shape their trajectory tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is exciting.
And a little nerve-wracking.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very dynamic situation.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this industry
Yeah.
so interesting to watch.
Right.
I mean, there's so many, moving pieces,
Yeah.
so much potential for
Right.
innovation, for disruption.
Yeah, for our listener who's, taken the time to deep dive with us today,
Yeah.
what would you say is kind of the biggest takeaway?
The biggest takeaway,
Yeah.
I think it's that Jamna Auto
Yeah.
is a company in transition.
Okay.
They're not just, riding the waves.
Mhm.
They're actively trying to shape it.
Right.
They're facing challenges,
Yeah.
but they're showing that they're willing
Okay.
to adapt, to innovate, to invest.
And whether they succeed or stumble,
Yeah,
their journey will be one worth watching.
absolutely. It'll be an interesting story.
And that's what makes this so compelling, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about, the numbers.
The numbers, right?
It's about the story those numbers tell.
Exactly.
It's about a company
Yeah.
trying to navigate a changing landscape.
Trying to find their place.
Define its place. Yeah.
In this new world.
In this new world of mobility.
It's a good story.
It is. We've covered a lot of ground today.
A lot of ground.
But this is really, just the beginning.
Just the start.
Yeah. And we encourage you to, explore the source material.
Yeah. Definitely check out the source material.
Further, especially, that investor presentation.
The investor presentation, yeah.
It's packed with insights.
Tons of good stuff in there.
And it's actually, visually engaging, too, which is always a bonus.
Always a bonus.
Yeah.
I like when they make it, visually appealing.
Easy to understand.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and as you delve deeper, keep those key questions in mind,
What are those questions again?
Like, how will they navigate?
Okay, how will they navigate?
The industry shifts.
The industry shifts, okay.
How effectively will they execute?
How effectively will they execute, yeah.
Their plans.
Their growth plans.
Yeah. And ultimately, what role will they play in shaping,
Shaping
the future of mobility?
the future, that's the big one.
Yeah. It's a future full of possibilities.
For sure.
And Jamna Auto is right in the mix.
Right in the thick of it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
On this deep dive.
Appreciate it.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
For another fascinating exploration.
Always fascinating.
Yeah.